Hey everyone! Today we're exploring another chilling and disturbing case. If you'd like to support the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay engaged. It really means a lot. I truly appreciate it. Now, take a deep breath and let's dive in.
Weddings, moments of love, tradition, and family unity. But behind the glitter of this cross-cultural celebration lay a secret so toxic, it would rip two families apart, and end with two bodies lying in pools of blood on the wedding night. The union was supposed to be picture-perfect. A young Indian bride, admired for her grace. An Australian groom, wealthy and ambitious. And a family proud to merge cultures in a grand, lavish ceremony. The stage was set for a lifetime of happiness. Or so it seemed. What no one knew was that while the groom was planning a future with his bride, she was already entangled in a forbidden relationship with his own father. The father, well-respected, wealthy, and authoritative, hid behind his reputation as a family man. But in the shadows, he had crossed the ultimate boundary. What began as secret glances and whispered conversations spiraled into a full-blown affair. The bride was living a double life, torn between duty, desire, and dangerous ambition. On the wedding night, the facade cracked. The groom, intoxicated with celebration, finally confronted whispers he had overheard. The bride's lies began to unravel. Heated words turned into violent accusations. And then chaos. When it was over, both the groom and his father were dead. Police rushed to the scene. Blood, broken glass, a devastated bride claiming confusion and shock. At first, she played the role of the grieving widow, but investigators quickly noticed something strange. Her story changed every time she spoke. As the truth began to surface, detectives realized this wasn't just a crime of passion. It was betrayal at the deepest level. One that raised disturbing questions about lust, greed, and the darkest corners of human psychology. But here's the twist. This double murder may not have been an accident of passion at all. Evidence suggested something far more calculated. Something sinister that could drag the bride, the father, and even others in the family into the shadows of suspicion. And when police uncovered the bride's final phone messages that night, everything changed. Detectives noticed something odd from the start. There were no forced entries, no signs of an outsider. Whoever committed the murders had been inside the family circle all along. The bride claimed she had been asleep when the argument broke out. But forensic evidence told a different story. Her fingerprints were on a broken wine glass, her DNA found on the weapon. And then came the messages. Police dug into her phone. What they found was damning. Weeks of secret conversations between the bride and her father-in-law. Messages filled with jealousy, manipulation, and threats. And chillingly, discussions of money, life insurance, and what would happen if the groom wasn't around anymore. Suddenly, this wasn't just betrayal. It looked like a blueprint for murder. The father-in-law was wealthy, with properties and accounts that could change the bride's life forever. Investigators suspected greed was fueling the affair. Inheritance, control, and the elimination of the groom as an obstacle. But there was another layer, religious hypocrisy. The father, a man who preached morality in public, was hiding a scandal that, if exposed, would destroy his reputation. Was he planning to silence his own son? Before his son could expose him, during interrogation, the bride broke down. First, she claimed she was a victim, that the father-in-law forced himself on her. Hours later, she reversed her story, admitting the affair but insisting she had nothing to do with the murders. Detectives, however, believed otherwise. The blood on her dress, the shifting alibis, the cold detachment when asked about her husband's final moments. And yet, something didn't add up. As the case moved toward trial, prosecutors were confident the bride was guilty. But just days before, a shocking discovery turned the investigation upside down. A hidden witness, someone inside the family who claimed to know exactly what happened that night, and who might have pulled the strings from the shadows. Could it be that the bride wasn't the mastermind after all? Was someone else orchestrating the bloodshed while she became the perfect scapegoat? The truth was darker and far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Prosecutors painted the bride as a calculating femme fatale. She seduced her father-in-law. She plotted her husband's death, and she stood to gain both wealth and control. They presented forensic evidence, phone messages, and the chilling fact that her fingerprints were on the murder weapon. The courtroom gasped as texts were read aloud. Messages that hinted at plans to start a new life once obstacles were gone. But the defense told a very different story. They portrayed her not as a manipulator, but as a victim, coerced and controlled by a man twice her age. They claimed the father-in-law orchestrated everything, desperate to cover up his affair before it destroyed his reputation. The bride, they argued, was merely a pawn, trapped in a toxic web she couldn't escape. And then came the twist. A witness from within the family was called to the stand. The witness, a cousin who had been staying nearby, testified that they had overheard heated arguments between the groom and his father long before the wedding. According to them, the father was terrified his son would expose the affair. But the witness didn't stop there. They hinted that the murders may not have been committed by the bride at all, but by someone else in the house that night. Suddenly, the once open and shut case was thrown into chaos. The jury sat stunned as secrets tumbled out. Greed, lust, lies, and whispers of hidden financial deals that tied multiple family members to the scandal. The bride's tears. Were they guilt or manipulation? The father's reputation. Was he a predator or a victim of his own twisted desires? And just when it seemed the truth was within reach, the trial took a darker turn. Because in the middle of the trial, evidence surfaced of a third party who may have been inside the house that night. Someone who had never been questioned. Someone with just as much to gain from the deaths, if not more. Was this the missing piece of the puzzle? Or yet another layer in a web of lies? The answer would push the case into its most disturbing chapter yet. Detectives re-examined security footage, phone records, and eyewitness accounts. That's when a chilling discovery surfaced. One family member had lied about their whereabouts on the wedding night. The groom's own mother. She had claimed she was asleep during the chaos. But phone pings placed her near the scene at the exact time of the murders. Bloodstains matching her DNA were found on clothing hidden in a locked laundry cabinet. Suddenly, the theory of a simple affair-driven crime collapsed. Was the bride being framed? Was the father silenced not by passion, but by his own wife? Prosecutors uncovered disturbing truths about the mother. Years of jealousy toward her husband's wandering eye. A failing marriage she was desperate to protect at all costs. And evidence that she may have known about the affair long before the wedding. Had she killed both her husband and son in a fit of rage, destroying everything to keep her secret buried? Or was she working with someone else all along? The courtroom descended into chaos as the mother was called to testify. Her face pale, her voice trembling, she denied everything, insisting she was being framed. But the jury was left stunned when the prosecution revealed one final bombshell. A deleted voicemail left on the bride's phone just hours before the murders. A woman's voice whispering, "He can't embarrass this family." Not anymore. The voice matched the mother, but the message raised new, terrifying questions. Was she the true killer, or was someone else forcing her hand, pulling the strings from the shadows? Because what investigators discovered next suggested this family's secrets went even deeper than murder. When police traced the mother's deleted messages, they found a chilling pattern. The voicemails weren't isolated. They were replies. Replies to instructions from someone else inside the family. The bride, the father, the mother, and the groom were all tangled in a web of deceit. But at the center of it was a figure no one expected, the groom's older brother. On the surface, he had been quiet, respectful, almost invisible during the wedding chaos. But bank records revealed he was drowning in debt, gambling losses, failed business ventures, and a desperate need for money, with his father's wealth and his brother's new marriage threatening to cut him off. Investigators believed he had orchestrated the entire scandal, whispering poison into the bride's ear, feeding his mother's jealousy, and letting the family implode. The brother had allegedly planted doubts in the groom's mind, encouraged the affair between bride and father, and then nudged his mother toward confrontation. Like a master puppeteer, he pulled strings until the family turned on itself. And in the chaos, 2 men ended up dead. But here's the most disturbing part. There was no direct evidence tying him to the murders. No fingerprints, no weapon, just whispers, debts, and shadows. The prosecution wanted to focus on the bride and the mother, but the defense demanded the brother be investigated as the true mastermind. The jury sat divided. Was the bride guilty of cold-blooded murder? Was the mother driven to a jealous frenzy? Or was the brother the hidden hand behind everything, smiling in silence while his family burned? And then, just when the trial reached its breaking point, a new piece of evidence surfaced. A hidden journal belonging to the bride. Inside were entries that described secret meetings, secret promises, and chillingly, a deal struck with someone in the family to get rid of the groom. But the name in those pages was smudged, almost as if someone didn't want the world to know who she had written about. Was it the father, the mother, or the brother pulling all the strings? The truth was about to explode. Forensic experts worked tirelessly to recover the faint ink. Using ultraviolet scans, they revealed fragments of a name, letters that hinted at someone shocking. It wasn't the father. It wasn't the mother. The journal pointed directly to the brother. Prosecutors pounced. They claimed the brother manipulated every player in this deadly game. He whispered lies to his mother, fueled the affair between his father and the bride, and convinced the bride that her husband was standing in the way of their new life. But here's the chilling twist. He and the bride may have been romantically involved themselves. Suddenly, the case wasn't about an affair between bride and father alone, but about a web of secret liaisons, each more forbidden than the last. Under pressure, the bride broke down on the stand. Through tears, she admitted to betraying her vows before the wedding, but she refused to name who she had been with. Was she protecting the brother, or hiding something even darker? Her refusal only deepened the mystery. The courtroom buzzed with disbelief. Multiple affairs, greed, betrayal stacked on betrayal, but the jury couldn't decide. Was the bride a seductress pulling men into her trap? Or was she just another victim of a manipulative family driven by money and power? Every testimony, every revelation only made the truth murkier. And then, as the trial neared its final stages, one final piece of evidence surfaced. A blood-stained letter, hidden inside the lining of the groom's wedding suit. A letter he had written hours before he died. In it, he revealed he had discovered the affair. But the name he wrote down as the guilty party wasn't the father or the brother. It was someone else entirely. Someone no one in the courtroom expected. The groom had written one line before blood soaked the page. "If I die tonight, look to my mother." Gasps filled the courtroom. For months, suspicion had swirled around the bride and the father. The brother had been exposed as manipulative. But this? The groom himself accusing his own mother. It was almost unthinkable. The prosecution immediately shifted focus. They argued the mother had the strongest motive of all. A crumbling marriage with a cheating husband. A son who had discovered the scandal. A reputation to protect in a conservative community. The voicemail, the bloodstains, and now her own son's dying words pointed directly at her. But the mother's attorneys insisted the letter was nothing but desperation. an angry man blaming his mother in his final hours. They argued the brother may have planted it, staging the ultimate betrayal to cover his own tracks. And then came the defense's counterattack. They suggested the bride herself had forged the letter, smearing the ink to make it look like the groom's final words. The jury sat frozen. Who was telling the truth? The bride, who kept shifting her story. The brother, buried in debt, but leaving no fingerprints? Or the mother, caught in a storm of lies, blood evidence, and her own son's accusation? The lines between victim and killer blurred with every passing hour. And then, just when the trial seemed ready to collapse under the weight of confusion, investigators unearthed something so dark it threatened to rewrite the entire case. Hidden in a safety deposit box belonging to the father was a sealed envelope. Inside photographs that revealed a relationship so disturbing, so taboo. It made everything that came before look like the prelude to a far greater horror. A relationship no one in the family wanted the world to know about. The photos showed the bride, not only with the father, but with both the father and the brother. A disturbing triangle of lust and betrayal. A family tangled in forbidden relationships that shattered every moral boundary. The images made one thing clear. This wasn't just an affair. It was a web of control, manipulation, and taboo stretching across generations. The prosecutors now claimed the murders were the result of a love triangle turned violent quadrangle. The father, jealous of losing the bride to his own son, and possibly his other son, snapped. The brother, desperate for money, used the scandal to push his own agenda. And the bride, caught between desire and survival, played each of them against the other. But if that were true, who held the knife? Confronted with the photos, the bride collapsed in court. Through sobs, she admitted the affairs, but insisted she hadn't killed anyone. She claimed she was being blackmailed, that the photos were used as leverage, that she was trapped in a cycle of exploitation she couldn't escape. But when asked who had taken the photographs, she refused to answer. The mother, watching from across the courtroom, erupted. For months, she had been painted as jealous, unstable, even murderous. Now, she turned her rage on her own family, shouting that the father had destroyed everything, that the brother was a parasite, and that the bride was nothing but a manipulator. Court officers dragged her out, but her outburst left the jury shaken. The photographs revealed betrayal. The bride hinted at blackmail. The mother exploded with rage. But still, no one could answer the ultimate question. Who struck the fatal blows on that wedding night? And then, just when the jury thought they had heard it all, detectives revealed there was one more roll of undeveloped film inside the safety deposit box. Film that promised to expose the final piece of this twisted puzzle. When the film was processed, investigators were stunned. The images showed the groom himself, confronting his father and the bride in what looked like the moments before the murders. But in the corner of one photo, barely visible in the shadows, was another figure, holding what appeared to be the murder weapon. Experts enhanced the images. The figure was a woman, her face blurred, but her build, her posture, it matched the mother. The prosecution erupted with triumph. Here it was, visual proof that she was present in the room at the critical moment. But the defense fired back. They argued the images could have been staged, or worse, planted by someone else to frame her. All eyes turned to the brother, who had been eerily calm through the trial. For the first time, his mask slipped. He clenched his fists. He whispered angrily to his lawyers. Detectives began to wonder. Had the brother taken the photos himself, setting up everyone else as pawns in his plan? Late in the proceedings, the bride asked to speak privately with her lawyer. When she returned, she looked pale, almost lifeless. Through tears, she said she knew the truth of who was in the shadows that night. But before she could name the person, court was adjourned for the day. The jury had seen the photographs. They had heard the accusations. They had watched as this family crumbled under the weight of its own sins. But the question remained: who delivered the fatal blows? And as the bride prepared to testify one last time, rumors swirled that her confession might not only expose the killer, but reveal a secret so explosive it could erase everything the jury thought they knew about the case. The courtroom fell silent as the bride finally took the stand for the last time. Through tears, she confessed. She had been manipulated, blackmailed, and threatened. She admitted the affairs. She admitted the lies. But she swore she had not killed her husband or his father. Instead, she pointed across the courtroom at the mother. According to the bride, the mother had discovered the affairs long before the wedding. Enraged, humiliated, and terrified of losing everything, she hatched a plan to destroy both her cheating husband and her son. The son who, she believed, had dishonored the family by bringing the bride into their home. The undeveloped film confirmed her presence in the room. The bloodstains matched. The voicemail was hers. Piece by piece, the puzzle fell into place. The prosecution laid out the mother's motive: a marriage collapsing under betrayal, a reputation she refused to let be ruined, and a family fortune she wanted to keep under her control. In a fit of rage, she killed them both and tried to frame the bride as the perfect scapegoat. After weeks of shocking testimony, the jury returned. The bride, acquitted. The brother, cleared of direct involvement. The mother, guilty on all counts. Gasps filled the courtroom as she collapsed in her chair, her face frozen in disbelief. The case was closed. The mother would spend the rest of her life behind bars. But even as the gavel fell, one final mystery lingered. Because when investigators revisited the groom's journal, they found one unfinished line written in shaky handwriting. "If I don't survive tonight, it won't just be my mother. There's someone else watching us all." The identity of that someone else was never revealed. And with that, this story closes not with clarity, but with a shadow. Because in this family, the truth may never truly be known. Sometimes the people who destroy us aren't strangers in the dark, but the very ones who share our blood.
What are your thoughts on this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more stories, where each case isn't just about crime, but also offers a lesson for life.